you, sir. Number 2 is Pledge Allegiance and Prayer. We'll start with the Pledge Allegiance. Looks like we have Brian tonight to lead us in prayer.
Okay, let's pray. Father, it's a new change now in Sturgis. Lord, Kevin's passed away. And Lord, very thankful for what he has done, how he's led, and how he's brought the city forward. And Father, I pray especially for his wife, Nicole, and his sons, and his family, Lord, and just asking for mercy given to them, that they'd be able to be built up in this time of grief, and as they consider their life going forward now. And Father, I pray also for our town council as they consider life also going forward. Lord, that the good things that Kevin began and that this team has worked forward, Lord, that it would continue, that you would build them up and strengthen them, that they wouldn't lose sight of the goals that they've set, that they'd continue and going forward and building up our town. I just thank you so much for these folks. And please, Lord, help us in the audience to be respectful and to be honoring these ones that have stepped forward and are leading our town. And I just thank you for this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. In addition to Brian's comments, we'd like to let Kevin's family and friends, loved ones know that they're in our thoughts and prayers. And now if you would join me for a moment of silence just to reflect and remember Kevin. All righty, thank you guys. Number 3 is approval of agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
First by Alex,
Second?
second by Jim. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. We have an agenda. Number 4, announcements and praise. Jim, do we have a list tonight?
I have a list.
All righty, if you want to run with it, go ahead.
Thank you. And first of all, I just thank the Sturgis Chamber of Commerce for the banquet that was held last week. And without going through the whole list, there were many, many people that received awards, but the final one, the one to consider the best one, was the Bob Davis Award, and that was given to Kevin Forrester. And what an honor for those of us who were there to see that happen, and it's a great tribute to our former mayor. So that was great that the chamber mentioned him. By the way, individuals interested in running for mayor or the Ward 1 City Council seat in this upcoming June 2nd Sturgis municipal election, you may now pick up the nominating petitions at the finance office at the Sturgis City Hall. Once you pick those up, petitions must be returned by 5 p.m. on May 1st. Throughout April, there's an annual quilt show. If you get a chance to go to the Sturgis Public Library, you'll see the quilts on display. My wife is a quilter, though I don't understand taking big pieces and cutting them into little pieces and then putting them back into big pieces. The fact of the matter is those are some beautiful results, and those are available at the library, and I'm sure Chris and their crew would love to have you just come in and look around. Coming up Thursday, April 9th, the April 3-in-1 Mixer is going to be held at Greenscape. It's actually 3 places: Greenscape, Twisted Canyon Training Facility, and Extreme Dakota Bicycles, and that's from 5 to 7. The April 3-in-1 Mixer for the Chamber of Commerce, and if you haven't had a chance to go to those, that's a good opportunity to see people from in and around Sturgis. Also on the 9th, the Sturgis Area Arts Council meets at 2:30 in the Lush Bar Room at the Sturgis Public Library, and if you've not been there, that's one of the most beautiful buildings, built rooms up here in the second floor, and a wonderful place to really get the chance to see that happen. In this case, it's the Sturgis Arts Council, and that's Thursday afternoon at 2:30. Thursday's busy. April 9th is also the American Legion Post 33 having a spaghetti fundraiser from 5 until 7. That'll be at the Vets Club on Main Street. Proceeds will benefit Post 33 children and youth programs. This coming Saturday, April 11th, Loftus Dental will have a blood drive from 9:30 until 1:15. The bloodmobile will be in the Massa Berry parking lot. That's this coming Saturday, 9:30 to 1:15. Also on Saturday, the Sturgis Brown High School prom. Doors open at 6:30, Grand March at 7:30, and the prom at 8:30. That's going on Saturday. And then looking ahead, Friday, April 17th, Jay Johnson's retirement party after 39 years will be 10 to noon at the Public Works campus on Dudley Street. That's for Jay Johnson on Friday, April 17th. And also that same day, on the 17th, the History at High Noon program called Bitten, Kicked, and Stomped. And David Super is doing that. David now lives in Rapid City, but a graduate of Sturgis High School, and one of my classmates, as a matter of fact. So those are the things going on, Mr. President Pro Tem of the Senate.
Any other announcements or praise from council? None being heard. Any from the public? Okay, none being heard. We'll move on to number 5. Non-agenda matters that may become before the council. Anything on anybody in council have anything? None? Anybody in the public? All righty, none being heard, we will move on to number 8, consider the consent agenda. We have 8 through 1 to 8.9. We can do them all as one unless there's something somebody wants pulled off council.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Anybody in the public have any one of them items they want pulled for discussion? Okay, none being heard.
That would hold.
Okay, first by Jim, second by Mark to approve. All those in favor of the motions, say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That passes. Okay. Number 9, approval of the claims. Everybody have a chance to go through those? Any questions, comments, concerns from council? None?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we have a first by Terry,
I'll second.
second by Ruth. All those in favor of the motion say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Okay, number 10, second reading of ordinance 2026-3, enabling reconstruction of non-conforming site-built dwellings in MH1 zoning district.
Doing this, Aaron, or am I? Council, this is second reading of ordinance 2026-03. This is the ordinance that will allow legal non-conforming site-built dwellings in the MH1 zoning district to be reconstructed even in the event of over 50% damage. I'm not going to go into super depth with this. This is the council has had 3 or 4 touch points on this already. The ordinance has advanced up through Planning Commission as is required by law. Planning Commission held a public hearing as is also required by law, did recommend its approval. Council passed first reading at its last meeting. There have been no changes since second reading, so the objective would be to open the public hearing, see if anyone has any comment on this, take council discussion and potential action. Happy to answer any questions. Jana Watson, our planning and zoning consultant, is also present. She'd be happy to answer any questions or cover anything in the staff report that needs to be covered.
Well, we will open it up to the hearing. Does anybody on council have anything to add, comment, concerns? Anybody from the public? With that, we will close the hearing and we'll vote on it. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
I have a first by Alex, a second by Nick. All those in favor of the motion, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no? All right, that one carries. On to number 11, reports. 11.1, consider first reading of residential camping ordinance. Eric? Aaron?
Sure. This is potential first reading of ordinance 2026-02. I kept the original number from the ordinance that we put together with the ordinance committee's draft framework. So again, speaking of something that's had many touch points with the council, I won't go into super detail with this unless the council wants to have a discussion about it. But at the last meeting, the council considered the framework of a proposal that Mayor Forrester had been working on, trying to build consensus on with the community, with stakeholders, with the council, trying to find a place that would get us to a good framework where we could solve some problems with the residential rally camping ordinance and establish a new framework to work in moving forward. So this is the ordinance that you have in front of you is the product of my drafting, attempting to convert that discussion framework into legal text that could be administered consistent with the direction of that ordinance. So I'm sure I probably didn't nail every aspect that I need to. It was a little bit more of a complex framework than the ordinance committee came up with, but I think I mostly got it there. I think it makes sense to me. So would be happy to accept any comment or questions from the council on that, and would be ready for the council to either move first reading or to just consider this as an introduction and have future discussion at the next meeting where we can also discuss any potential changes to that framework or language.
Anybody on council have any questions for Eric? No? Anybody in the public? Come on up to the mic, please. State your name, and if we can try to keep her to 3 minutes, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. And we have to say thank you for the for Forrester and his time. Addressing, I was looking at this so far. What I found is you were talking about G,
Can you
7 and 8.
Can you state your name, please?
Yeah, Michael Galanda, Sturgis Pirate Radio.
Thank you.
Articles 7 and 8. We have a lot of people that mysteriously think they know so much about the what it takes to take care of people, and as of somebody who has taken the course for first responders, if you would look at a first responder being there on the campgrounds for 7 and 8, they can address a fire situation, they can address a medical situation, and when I say address it, that means they take the scene, one takes the call, one's on the phone, one person is taking care of the person, and then that means the people can be taken care of. It addresses a lot of the situations in a controlled manner. But with everybody's love of YouTube and saying I saw it, you need to ask them, have they taken a certified course on what a first responder was? As of an employee of the YMCA in Rapid City, we all had to take a course on how to handle people when an incident happened. Those two right there and a few others would be there. And your fire extinguishers, you're asking these tenants, these people, to get close to $1,000 worth of fire extinguishers, where potentially a good heavy water hose and an ABC fire extinguisher with the bracket off the floor, keeping it from my table to where the floor is 4 inches so it does not touch the ground where those bikes are. And then that way, if there's a fire, and if you were to have that situation and you were to have a first responder there watching, he was there, they were watching, then that way the situations would be could be better taken care of in a manner that everybody makes it. More motorcyclists die because of people that do not take courses. I would ask the city of Sturgis gets with their sponsors, and I believe it is with Allstate. They post a course on how to handle when motorcyclists are laid down and hurt. It goes all the way to the point of saying, well, you got to pull them out from underneath the bike. You are talking to one that a first responder saved his life. And I was a first responder, so some of this stuff could be very well addressed with your fire department, and a well-trained first responder could be the saving day of anything. We put it up there, we put it up on our channel, is a first responder could do a lot of good work. And as long as people work with that first responder, that means everything gets done and we don't have any problems. And we have the best 86th rally we've ever had with the 4th of July, and we can make the 87th rock on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Casey Tisdale. So, first I apologize for my lengthy statement. I have been told a couple of things have been updated, so take what I say with liberty of the fact that there have been updates that I'm not aware of. I'm here to speak against the proposed residential camping ordinance, because as written it is initially inconsistent, overly restrictive, and poses unreasonable burdens on homeowners without clear public benefit. First, the requirement to collect and retain personal information on all guests, even family and friends, for 1 year is deeply flawed. The city claims it does not need this information, and the current draft claims the guest book would not be submitted to the city and is intended to be kept by the host for emergency response or law enforcement accountability. But if that's true, why is it made a requirement at all? That still creates a privacy enforcement problem. Expecting a homeowner to maintain sensitive personal data does not improve safety, because the city cannot use it directly to locate someone and cannot become a pretext for government intrusion if records are examined during enforcement. This requirement remains unnecessary and invasive. If the justification is safety, say someone is injured or hospitalized, the rule fails. Without access to the information, city cannot locate guests. If someone has identification, that still does not tell the city where they are staying. Worse, requiring homeowners to maintain this information creates a potential loophole for law enforcement. Missing, incomplete, or inaccurate records could be treated as violations, leading to fines or misdemeanor charges. Inspectors could use it as a pretext to enter homes under the guise of verifying compliance. This is an unreasonable invasion of privacy and a dangerous enforcement tool. Second, although the latest discussion includes adjusted limits, such as allowing up to 3 units and 10 campers with different day limits during rally versus non-rally periods, the core issue remains. These limits are arbitrary and lack demonstrated safety and public health justification. Responsible homeowners hosting friends or family are still subject to intrusive rules about how many units they may host and for how long. The enforcement really will remain difficult without intrusive monitoring. Even as the council considers a by right allowance and a free permit option for larger groups, the ordinance still imposes burdensome requirements such as sanitation plans, portable water verification, fire safety measures, parking and noise plans, and so on. The argument affects is still a disappropriate administrative burden on homeowners, far beyond what is necessary to protect the public. There is no data, safety guideline, or public health reason to justify these numbers. Family or friends visiting may require more tents or longer stays, and reasonable homeowners could be penalized for minor deviations. Enforcement would require intrusive monitoring, which is unfair and impractical. Third, the permit process is disappropriately burdensome. Homeowners are required to submit site maps, fire plans, parking and sanitation plans, portable water verification, noise acknowledgements, and even sales tax licenses for small-scale private camping. This level of regulation is excessive, especially given the stated purpose, and gives the city administrator near total discretion to approve or deny permits. Fourth, the rules on yard coverage, setbacks, emergency access, and sanitation are vague. This is the part I've been told that has been changed. Terms like adequate, sufficient, and 50-yard% coverage are undefined, leaving homeowners exposed to arbitrary enforcement. Combined with misdemeanor penalties each day, a site violation with escalating fines and consequences are disappropriate and punitive. Finally, the appeal process is unclear. Only certain permit decisions may be appealed, which raises due process concerns and leaves homeowners vulnerable and inconsistent enforcement. Taken together, this ordinance imposes unnecessary restrictions, creates practical enforcement problems, raises serious privacy concerns, and fails to demonstrate a clear, legitimate public purpose. It is vague, arbitrary, overly punitive, and creates a loophole that can allow law enforcement to intrude on private homes. I strongly urge the council to reject this ordinance in its entirety. The board has written this ordinance and has failed to remove overreaching provisions on homeowners, and they have not provided clear justification for any homeowners should be trusted for any restrictions. Homeowners should be trusted to host responsibly without facing disappropriate government intrusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Good job. Way to go. Yeah. Good job. Good job.
Anybody else in the public? Go on in.
Good job, girl.
I agree with a lot of what she just said, and especially about the part about overreach. I really,
Can you state your
oh,
name?
I'm very sorry, Joy
That's
Nichols. You should know who I am by now.
Yeah, it's for the people watching.
know.
So.
My bad.
Nope,
Thank
you're
you.
good. You're good.
I do think that this is definitely overreach and really puts a lot of burden, and it really says a lot about Sturgis saying what you can and can't do on your property. Having said that, I heard when we were out to dinner was, this is a done deal. You guys aren't listening. And I hate to see that. I feel like you guys have listened, but our ordinance is not quite there yet, and I don't feel it's ready for first reading. So, having said that, I have a couple things that I do want to bring up that really hit me hard. One of them is in section 91.16 on the appeals. It says in section C that we have to go to the Board of Adjustment if we have to have any appeals. I needed to know how often they meet, when they meet. Is it open to the public? I don't know that. But section C says the board shall affirm the city administrator's decision unless it's determined that the administrator abused discretion. Excuse me, I have to put my glasses on. Or that decision was not supported by written findings. They're already saying they have to affirm it, no matter what. And I really find that to be very, for lack of better terms. So we need to correct that, I feel. I have a couple of other things I wanted to bring up that here as well, and I could probably go on for well more than 3 minutes. Let's go back to 91.03, the definitions. It talked about campers, and I have no problem. A person sleeping, lodging, residing in a camping unit, no problem. Or otherwise temporarily camping on qualifying property, that would apply to a guest coming into your home. They're a camper in your home? I found that problematic. And following that, the camping also says, or temporary sleeping arrangement for lodging. Again, that's a guest could apply under this. That's way beyond what this ordinance should say. I do appreciate that you guys added 3 days on either side of the rally. That's a help, I think, for many of them. In section 91.08, I guess it is, C and D, it seems to be a contradiction that there's no fixed cap on the number of camping units or individual campers established with permit. And then it goes right in to say that the scale of permitted rally camping is based on the lot size. So you've kind of one hand versus the other. That should be clarified. How long do we have to hear back once we put in our June 15 stuff? How long do we have to wait? And at what point then can we turn around and change these deficiencies that you might find? It doesn't really come out and say anything about that. If you go up until the week before rally making your decision, then there's no time to change a deficiency. That's problematic. One of the things in your that you had in there, Eric, was contiguous in the first part of our definitions, and then everywhere else you call it adjoining and nearby. It would be probably better clarified one way or the other. Who's going to come on the property? Are we waiting till somebody complains and then we'll have somebody come on the property? Who's coming onto our property? Is it going to be the police that comes out? Is this a criminal thing or not? Is it going to be Aaron coming to our property and say, hey, we think you've got more than 10 campers? Maybe I have 10 people who are from Rapid City up here. How do you determine if they're a camper or not? I was hoping that we would have a better idea about what was going to be on the permits. Their plan, because I'd like to make sure that there's no required certifications or attestations that need to be put at the end. So that would have been helpful to have at least some sort of a sample to make sure that we didn't have anything like that in there. I also am concerned about it if somebody says, okay, you've got to come on our property, and you look around, and then all of a sudden you see a brush pile over here that we shouldn't have had or we should have cleaned up. Are you then going to turn around and say, oh, well, now we've got the I don't know what you call him, the other person here who's coming in and saying, oh, you got to pick up all your brush. You're in violation. Kind of like a pretextual stop by the police. You change on one hand versus the other. We don't want fishing expeditions. And let's see here. I appreciated about the fire department. The fire department will bring water. Isn't water good enough? Do we have to have all the fire extinguishers, depending on the number of people that you have there? I don't know. I'm just very concerned that we are starting to possibly step on our Fourth Amendment rights here a little bit as well. So some of our stuff here that needs to be just talked about. Do we need a warrant for some of these things, these names of people and everything else like that? That's personal information. How do we just have to turn it over? So anyway, I think I'm about ready to call it quits here, other than talking about drone footage. Are we going to use drone footage to say that you've got too many campers or whatever? I don't know. I think these things are things that you need to think about before you make it a first reading.
Anybody else? Come on up, Bonnie.
Bonnie Alberts, Sturgis. I'd like to respond to a couple of things just without finding it on the paper. For one thing, I would really like to see us get past this presumption of ill will on the part of the city and the part of the council and ill intentions, because that is not my experience. I just have not had that experience, and I think that even if it's just a statement, I think we need to address Joy's concern that about a rubbish pile she might have that then becomes a code violation. You know, you're there to do this piece of business, that's the piece of business you do. I won't go there. There are some things that I think need to be clearer in the definitions. It says, or other, let's see, I'm in definitions under 91.01 purpose and, 03 definitions, and it says camping unit. And I think that we're misconstruing that as readers or other temporary living unit used for camping. I think, you know, that's clear to me, but apparently we have some misunderstanding about that. So we're talking about apparatus for sleeping outside the home, not under the roof of the residential home. Like I said, this is adequate wording for me, but clearly we have some people who are thinking that even if they have a guest in a room in their home for a couple of nights, they're called a camper. So I don't know if it goes back to it goes back to the definition of camper. Clearly says in a camping unit, but I just think that I'm usually for being concise about it, but I think we might need to be a little bit wordier in these, in some of the definitions to make sure that we don't have any misinterpretation and lighting fires that have no kindling, really. So that would be one recommendation. As I go on down here, it's a lot to read, and you kind of flip back and forth, and I think about my own circumstance. I think about my neighbors who are property owners, but not residents of Sturgis, and so I'm trying to think what heads-ups I will need to give them so that they're on high ground with the city. But when under 9105 qualifying residential property C, where it says a single-family residential dwelling in B, and then it says there are special conditions that would apply to a duplex, triplex, fourplex, and then only if owned by a Sturgis resident. How does that reconcile itself with an out-of-towner who owns a property in Sturgis that would be a duplex, perhaps, or a triplex? So are they automatically disqualified in that definition? I think you've been really good and clear about vacant lot camping and how that's going to be handled. I was glad to see that. I'm looking at 9106 D 1, 2, and 3. Again, we have gone with 3 camping units, and this is a point I made before, but it was quite a while ago. That's under non-rally, and it's going to come up again under rally residential camping. You're saying 10 campers is okay, but if I have 10 men campers, I'm going to have 10 little tents, because that's how guys are. I could easily have 10 women in 2 tents and be within the guidelines. But I think establishing the camping units is possibly not necessary, or perhaps do that by conditions that must be met. I mean, there's no way I can accommodate 10 campers and I can accommodate 10 little tents, but I'm not going to try and put 10 RVs in that yard to accommodate 10 campers. So I think there needs to be some latitude in the expectation there, but I just think 3 camping units is instantly restrictive and disqualifying and doesn't really serve the purpose. And I would think that that issue can be solved with a statement about appropriate volume on the property, and that would be determined by that application. So give some thought to that, please. Non-rally residential camping, 7 calendar days of the year. I am presuming that guests in your home don't count on your 7 days. If they're under your roof, they're not counting on your 7 days. Am I correct in that? Okay, thank you, Jesse. And the sentence 9107, by right rally residential camping, this gets to be a tongue twister. Again, I take exception to the 3 camping units, but down there under C, well, let's look at 3 first. It says, okay, to read the sentence as it works, by right, rally camping shall not exceed, colon, and then we have the list 1, 2, 3. Camping on an owner-occupied single-family residential dwelling only. You've got them camping on your roof. You need a property in there somewhere, because that line basically says they're camping on the structure itself. So take a closer look at that. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then C makes a reference to other authorized residential dwellings. Can you give me some examples of what that might be? Because I couldn't think of anything else that would be authorized as a residential dwelling. So what was the intent?
Bonnie, I think some of the confusion with B3, that may have supposed to been a C or D. So the idea behind C is that camping on an owner-occupied single-family residential dwelling is allowed by right, but a non-owner occupied, for example, duplex, triplex, fourplex, would only be by permit. That was the framework that was presented to the council at the last meeting.
Oh, so C then is referring back to the
Yeah, I think
multiple?
I think that B3 actually should probably be C, and then the other one should be D and E. So that's probably a drafting error on my part, making
Right.
it confusing.
Well, and I don't expect you to rewrite on the spot, but I'm just saying it just read into nowhere.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
So, I'm thinking about an out-of-stater that owns a property here, has owned it for years, maintains it, hires yard work done. I take care of the snow because we haven't had enough, but has a contract to have the yard work done as it should be, and has made improvements on the home. But they certainly have more than 10 friends who meet them there. It's a huge lot. It's a little house on the front of on the street side, and it goes all the way back to the alley. I haven't gone over there and counted heads, but my feel for it is that they generally have more than 10 campers. Maybe not at any given time. I mean, sometimes you've got 7 people come in, and then a few more come, and some of those 7 leave. Is it okay to swap? Is your 10 campers 10 designated campers, or is it body count at any given time? I don't know who's responsible for which word, so I don't know where to look. So
I would say any more than 10 would mean that you would need the permit.
but what if you only have 6 at a time? 6 come in,
I would say, Bonnie, it would be at a time. I mean,
it's a
let's say
body
you had
count.
6, and then a different 6, and then a different 6. That wouldn't, I would think it would be at a time.
Well, and I guarantee you it's going to come up. So you might want to identify it as at any given time. And So I kind of wondered with this if the people who are, let me see if I can find the one that said Sturgis resident. Does that mean, I tried to mark this so I could read it fast, but. Okay, so then when I turned the page, I got a little bit past that question, because then there is one that says a residential camping permit is required whenever rally camping exceeds the by right limits established on 91.07. So I just want to be sure that 9108 really does take care of that overage, because we talked before about, a teeny lot can't maybe necessarily handle that many, but a huge lot could certainly handle more. So if they've got a huge lot and they're automatically going to be over the 10, then they would need to do a permit. And that would get them through that? Am I interpreting that correctly?
That's how the ordinance is structured.
Okay,
Over 10 would require a permit with no max.
so that could be how you deal with the issue of 3 camping units, because anybody with 6 guys is going to have 6 camping units. Then all of us who would be in that situation would just automatically have to do permits every time, even though we're not really overloading the property. Or do you want to address the 3 camping units? So that was my take, was that the 9108 kind of ameliorates 9107. And then I may not be able to find the other one. I may not have done it in red. I can't find my other one. I know there was another one, but I can't spot it, so I might go later. That's what I can think of specific. Oh, no, that did it. That did it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Was I fast enough? I'm never fast enough for you.
Anyone else in the public?
One more time. All right, guys, this is Sturgis Pirate Radio. When Sturgis Pirate Radio started in 2016, we are now at 2026. We were told that we had to have a doing as business. We started IGM Pro, and my very first stuff was at the Buffalo Chip. Now, everyone's talking about tax licenses. To the people who just spoke, if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'm open to talk. There has been, the city is pushing the tax license because it's not them pushing it. The state of South Dakota, I'm going to say it again, the state of South Dakota is saying for Sturgis Rally, you have to apply for a free license, and you have to go, and I know I have all the information. When we restarted Sturgis Pirate Radio, because of how it fell apart and how the lawsuits that took it out of that knuckle, when we went to apply for our licensings for the last year's rally, we were held up 2 weeks because somebody else and other people were doing media videos without applying for their free license. And a lot of businesses are saying, well, why didn't everybody else get checked? But the thing is, this tax deal has nothing to do with camping as much as it has to do with the state of South Dakota choosing you guys to do this. And it's a free permit to apply for it. I was held up 2 weeks to see how I would apply for the free permit when I had a yearly tax license, and then they finally come to me and said, oh, don't worry, you got a yearly tax license.
This is not much as the city as much as the state is doing this. So media, everybody, if you're a vendor selling something, you have to apply. If you're a camper, you have to apply. If you do media, you have to apply. And they started at the first of the year. April now is. And anybody watching the video that can't find me, you go ahead and you call the Department of Revenue office in Rapid City, South Dakota, and that's who will handle and help you through getting through this. I was held up 2 weeks. I'm just going to put this out because I keep hearing it over and over and over, so I'll say it over. It is a South Dakota law, and it is a free permit, and you need to work with the Department of Revenue based out of Rapid City, South Dakota. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman, come on up.
Yes, sir.
My name's Dave Geringer. I keep seeing we can have 10 units or we can have 3 tents. Nobody said on what size lots. I got 10 lots at my place. Do I have 10 per lot? I ain't that stupid. I keep my stuff open. I keep so people can get in and out. I get it so medical can get in if we need to. We've never had any fires down through there, thank God. This year, who knows, as dry as it's been. But you guys keep saying we can have so many campers. Well, I can have 10 campers and 3 tents on 10 lots. And Pete the plumber's got 1 lot, and he can have the same thing. You guys ain't making no sense with what you're trying to do. As far as fire extinguishers and fire, you go right up here to Sturgis Campground. You can drive by there. There was no place up through there that says fire extinguishers, fire hoses, and they're a hell of a lot bigger than any yards we got. Now, somebody ain't going around during the rally. How many of you gone during the rally and looked at yards? Actually drove around and looked. Rode your motorcycle, your horse, whatever you got, and looked at the yards and see who had what and how they're set up. We help you guys more than we hurt you because they don't have enough room when you got a big rally. And you're losing money by sending these guys away because I know all my people are saying, we can't camp. We're going out of here. We'll go to Daytona. We'll take our vacation and go fishing. You'll lose the revenue. So you gotta, I don't know, what I can read in this, there ain't nothing in there that shows that you've really sat down and figured out what you're doing. And you told us at the first meeting, this year, we were going to go as it always been, and everything was going to be put out kind of on the side and work with us for next year. And now you're trying to pass it already. So again, we'll wait till the last minute and try to slide it under the table.
Hi, Misty Myers. And the thing that I've heard most about that people don't like about the ordinance, how it was presented last time, is, of course, the off-street parking for like trucks and trailers. That's a big thing because a lot of people don't have off-street parking at all, or if they do, it's for like 2 vehicles. So nobody knows how that's going to be even possible. So that's the thing I heard most about. And I think a lot of people are thinking, you know, they're looking at this permit thing, how you're going to do that. And they're very intimidated about it. Like, how am I supposed to do this? Like a map of my property and everything. And it doesn't look like it's going to be as simple as everybody's saying. I mean, why not just a checklist? Yes, I have this, this, and this, you know. I mean, you want a map of how everything's going to go. Things change at the last minute all the time. And then, well, this isn't what you told us. I think that's part of the thing people are saying. that, you know, they feel like yeah, you want a plan, but what if that doesn't work and then we're going to get in trouble? I mean, when they get a permit, yes, I have fire extinguishers. Yes, I can provide water. Yes, I have this many bathrooms per this many people, or, you know, have a checklist. Yes, I have this, and turn it in, you know? I think that's what people are trying to get through, is it's just too much info that you're asking for. Give us a checklist. Yes, we have this. Yes, we can provide this, and, you know, call it good. Why? People are feeling like you're way too much in their business, is what it is. That's all.
Hi, guys. How's it going today?
Good.
Hello, sir.
My name's Michael Olson. Excuse me. I've been driving truck for years around here, paying a lot of taxes to Sturgis. Have a little camping gig, trying to make a little revenue and pay taxes. Maybe it'll put a little bit in my pocket. What have you guys been doing? Buying houses? Maybe somebody around here owns 4 or 5 houses. How much rent do they charge for those people that go inside those houses? $5,000 a week? $10,000 a week? Who knows? Do they pay those taxes? That's a lot of sales tax you're losing. The people that come to my house, they go downtown, they get Lombrado rides back, spend a lot of money downtown. Sorry, I got a lot of friends and family that come and show up my plate. I think you're infringing on our personal views here. I mean, kind of can't get the right word out here, but you're infringing on our personal rights by this ordinance. What brought this ordinance up in the first place? Too many complaints? Too many people making money? What is it? Let me know. Come on.
I think the existing ordinance was, I don't know if you're aware or familiar with the existing ordinance, was very, very, very restrictive. The one that's in place now, that has been in place. And so they looked at it and said, how can we make this not as restrictive as the current ordinance?
So I've got 6 lots on one property. How many people gonna have there? How many campers gonna have there?
I think the current ordinance says 1. I believe. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it says 1. Obviously, that's entirely too restrictive.
So, years ago, it used to be 19 people on one lot. I've been doing this 23 years. It started out with a couple people.
I don't have it in front of me. I think it reads something like 1 unit, 19. Eric, can you help me out at all with that? I don't remember exactly what it says.
I don't immediately recall not having it in front of me if the 19 people is 1 unit up to 19 people, or if the 19 is a carryover from the grandfather provision. I don't know. It could be both.
Yes, the grandfathered in, yes. So you think this is better for all of us? Or are we,
Well, I think the thought was this will allow more than the 1, and then under a permit, there is no limit.
so the permit says I can have whatever my facility.
Whatever's reasonable, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Yes, that's what we've been doing for years,
yeah.
and I'm okay with that.
And I think the existing one, technically, if you went over 1, correct me if I'm wrong, there was supposed to be some sort of permit system with the existing one, but there was no permit system. It said it in the ordinance, but there was no permit system that
I
anybody.
checked in my file and couldn't find a permit, but when you're grandfathered in, then somebody comes along and says you have to do it this way. If you guys allow me to have X amount of people with my toilets and my showers that are outside,
I feel I can run as many as probably 35, maybe 40 people in one day. Sometimes during the week there might be 4 or 5 people, because you know how it is. You got the first concerts, and then they come in. There's heavy traffic, and then they fall off, and then they leave, and new people come in. And generally, the first part of the rally is when you get the amount of people that come in. Have there been any complaints? Where do all these complaints come from? Are there any complaints? Fire hazard? People make noise in the tents. I mean, this is the Sturgis rally.
I think one example.
Okay.
Had somebody come in and say, hey, the ordinance says they can only have one camping unit, and they've got whatever, 20 or whatever they had. You need to enforce the ordinance. That's not, the ordinance says they can't do that. And so looked at the ordinance and said, yeah, they're right. That's what the ordinance says. They're not supposed to do that. Well, then if you go and enforce that ordinance against everybody in town, the vast majority of people were in violation. And so that's when we said we need to take a look at this and try to put a little bit looser limit on it, and then create a permit as the existing ordinance was supposed to have done, but actually create a permit if, you know, for people that want to go beyond these limits. Because you're right, there's properties that, and that's where the permit kind of came from. We had people saying, well, geez, I got a bigger property, you know, why should I only have 20? This guy can only have, you know, his property only supports 5. My property supports 20. So how can we have this arbitrary number? I should be able to have more. And that's where the permit came in. Was for people, you know, like your property must be bigger and can support more people. And so, yeah.
Well, I started out small. I had a couple people, some Nova Scotia, Honduras, so on and so forth, right by China, and just had one shower. Didn't even have a shower the first time, but then it's steadily expanded, yes. And there was a couple times it was a little bit overloaded, and I was walking around and staying up and making sure that everything was okay. I never did hear any complaints about our place. It's down on 10th Street, 10th Street in Williams. We do get pretty busy. And I made it a business at one time, paid the taxes. All I did is end up paying IRS more money. IRS loves our money, don't they? I got 2 houses there. I pay $7,000 in taxes. When I started getting more and more people in, they raised my trash, sewer, which, okay, because there is more trash and sewer. So, but they never lowered it. Once everybody left, they didn't lower it. It stayed the same. It's been the same. It's steadily increased. The house I purchased was $34,000. It's now worth $300,000. This helps pay the taxes. Maybe go down to the Knuckle and have a beer once in a while. Maybe put a little bit in the safe. But I don't want you guys coming around saying you can't do it, because those other people get to do it, and they're not even reporting anything. I got a neighbor down the street. It's a construction company. All this shit's sitting out there right next to the street. Supposed to have a 25-foot, aren't you? From the curb. Got a house next door, well, kind of kitty corner across. I don't even know what the hell that is. Looks like a storefront. But the city allowed him to build it so he could put his RV inside when he gets in the wintertime. I think he used to work for Sturgis RV, or maybe still does. Long time ago, there was a ordinance. No, I was just a young man then when I come here. There wasn't going to be any campgrounds in the city of Sturgis. Some guy come along and called it Camp Rodney because he looked like Rodney Dangerfield. Okay, I get it. He proposed so much sales tax to the city of Sturgis. We pay a lot of taxes to the city of Sturgis also. Now you got the Sturgis RV Park down in the old tenant place. I wish I'd have bought that and there wouldn't be no RV park in the city of Sturgis, because it was never supposed to be. I think there's some areas around here where maybe the pocket money went to other people and they said, okay, we'll take your sales tax. Maybe it didn't, maybe I'm wrong. I'm an honest man. I do make some money. Let us continue. That guy wants to have 10 campers, let him have 10 campers.
I agree, and I think from the beginning we said, you know, it's nice to still allow camping. I mean, let me be clear, we're not trying to just shut down camping. Again, took a look at the existing ordinance and went, that is entirely too restrictive. Plus, it referenced a permit, which there was no, it didn't exist. And so we said, okay, let's loosen this up a little bit and actually create the permit that they can use to have more. You know, you asked, is this better than the existing one? And I would say it is by far more, it's less restrictive by far than the existing ordinance. I feel.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. When I came out of Vietnam, come back to the United States, they didn't have a ticker tape parade for us. I come over here to Fort Meade. They asked me what the hell I was doing there. I didn't go back for 25 years. I kind of give them the finger. I'm back now, and the VA over here at Fort Meade is really good.
I agree.
Yes, thank God for that. I'd like you to consider me having 3 showers, 3 toilets, a porta potty, hookups, have our safety features. I walk around. I might take a nap in the afternoon, or I might take one in the evening to make sure everybody is safe. Is that okay?
Sounds to me like you run a pretty good operation. I think one meeting or 2 meetings ago, somebody made the comment that the idea would be to get to yes on these permits. The idea is not, how can we say no?
Okay.
The idea is how can we get to yes.
Okay. There's some contractors that go around and they pocket money and steal from people. I make a little pocket money. I'm not stealing from people. They come downtown, they spend a lot of money downtown. And when it's time to come back, they might, what the hell's that old taxi? That gotta have these, anyway. No complaints that I've heard about it. I got a neighbor moved in a couple of years ago, and I went and talked to her last year. She put signs outside, so no parking on William Street. That's a trunk line. These people aren't allowed to put any signs there, but I told my people to park away from them. Now, if these people put these signs out again this year, I'm gonna call you guys, like, gentlemen over there, police, are you police chief or? Yeah. Come get these signs off that property so my people can park on the street. As far as the trailers, I got 2 places I can take the trailers. There was a time back when some of the guys were parking on the Sturgis Park side, north side of Miller. Then they got a little carried away. Well, they're not there anymore. Now on the Sturgis Park side of North 10th, all we got is rocks and weeds. You guys had to borrow some money so you could put a sewer in. Now I got rocks and weeds. I might as well park those pickups back over there. But I'm not going to. Not that kind of person. I'll probably get one of these permits. I got 2 houses, so I need 2 permits? Just 1 permit's good?
I guess I don't know if that has been addressed. I think the idea was it was per property, but I don't know if that.
So this doesn't sound like it's as restrictive as some people thought it was. And I appreciate that.
I certainly can, I mean, that's probably by opinion, right? But I can tell you that it's way or much less restrictive than the existing ordinance that's in place today.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll be getting a permit or two.
Well, Bonnie, I'm going to see if there's anybody else, if that's okay. Is there anybody else that wants to?
How come I didn't get an ovation?
All right, Bonnie, come on up.
Bonnie Alberts, thank you for the second turn. I'd like to try and pull a couple pieces together here. I have kind of a loosey-goosey sense of the history of this, and it was, for a long time, we had that sense that you could not exceed 19 campers because according to the state, we believed that if you hit 20, that made you a commercial campground and you had to be health inspected and all those things. That's where that 19 number is coming from. And that's the number that was imparted to me from my mom, that she always kept things under 19. And I always kept a chart so I knew who was coming and going when, so that I didn't have more than a 19 body count, although I'm really more comfortable with less than that. But the fact of the matter is, I think people who've been doing camping for a long time were doing it under the understandings that they had, not of the current ordinance, but the one prior to that, whatever that might have been. I never saw it. I didn't care about camping then. But the current ordinance does seem to have been targeting, let's get rid of town camping, residential camping. And I appreciate the fact that you folks are addressing that. And the thing is, that ordinance slipped through, and I'm sure they did all of the voting things they should have and all of the posting things that they should have. But wasn't that in 21? 21, 22?
I think it's probably been, there's been reference to 2014, maybe there was an ordinance, 21, maybe there was an ordinance. I think there's been a few.
Well, 21, 22 was COVID time. I mean, you know how closely I follow what goes on here, and I didn't know anything about that one. But that was my COVID pneumonia year,
Well,
so I think that we just didn't know. And when we talk about this one, I mean, I want to tell you, this is really nicely done, and it's all laid out, but it's on legal-sized paper. I could not read it online, and so I printed it. I didn't realize that this chunk in the middle of the agenda was on legal paper, so I spent a lot of time reading and getting interrupted and not realizing that I was missing the bottom 4 inches of every page until I hit a sentence that didn't have a period and didn't go any place to the next page. So this is really hard to read for us, and I would imagine that there are a lot of people here who are raising opinions, oppositions, etc., and haven't been able to sit down and read this whole thing. And it's written as it needs to be written, and it's sectioned off, and you read about one kind of camping and another kind of camping, and then you're reading about one kind of camping again. So it was hard to get through it. And I just want to say that I think that a lot of the animosity that kind of bubbles out of this is that uncertainty and not knowing what the expectations are really going to be. But I do want to say to Dave, where'd you go back there? Dave does campers across the street backside from property that I have. And he does a whale of a job. And I don't think, Dave, am I correct in understanding, if you've got a property like Dave's that's huge, and he usually has a lot of camper RVs and stuff like that, plus some tents, he just has to do the permit and say how many you expect. And if it exceeds that, my sense...
I don't think the city doesn't have time to be going out. I mean, I would guess that if you ever heard from the city, it's a reactive...
It's because we called the ambulance.
I mean, it's... maybe I'm wrong, but I can't see that the city has time to be out there
Well, that's
on
my
to, you know,
expectation. We haven't, we haven't had anybody checking on us.
short of,
that-
you know, there being a problem or something, that, you know, a complaint for whatever, you know, I mean, I don't know, I can't.
Well, I just think sometimes we don't, it's really hard to read all these lines and the whereases and the therefores and the ABC 10, 11, 12s. And I am confident that what is written here needs a little word tweaking, but the intention is right-minded. I don't see that unless you are putting a whole bunch of people on a tiny little lot, that there's nothing restrictive here. Because again and again and again, if you're exceeding anything, you're qualifying for a petition. And if you do a petition and you've put too many boxes on your lot, whoever reviews that petition is going to say, I think this is too many. Can we negotiate here? So I think it's a really positive thing. The one thing that I couldn't find before was 91.13B reads, towing vehicles, trailers, RVs associated with camping must be parked on the owner's property. That owner's reflects to who owns the vehicles, the trailers, and the RVs. You know, I understand the RVs have to be on the property, but it isn't a reasonable expectation that the towing vehicles and the trailers are, and that this doesn't even allow you to find another parking lot in town to pay to park your equipment that you don't need, that you just needed to get there and go away. So I think that line needs some examination. There's no way I could put my 10 guys in single-man tents. I can do their 10 motorcycles, but I certainly, if 5 of them came in pickup trucks, they're not all fitting on my lot between
Well,
their
and I
little
think
tents, so.
The intent there, Bonnie, was, let's just say, for example, you have a lot that you could put 25 people on.
Right.
And they show up in 10 pickups and enclosed trailers.
Right.
I mean, you're gonna take up the parking, you
For
know,
blocks
for
around.
two blocks either side, and,
Gonna be running me off if my
It's-
people are filling up that much parking in the
you know, and so
neighborhood.
we tried to find the happy medium. And there is, and I think it was spoke about last meeting, there is a lot. Help me,
Across from Sturgis RV Park,
that is like,
kind of community.
what is it? It's like $50 for the week.
Well, and
That-
that's,
I mean,
that's what
now
I'm
they-
saying.
You know, just these bigger, trying to allow it, but not,
And I think that that will grow
you know,
out of this.
run your neighbors out either.
Once we get this figured out and tidied up, then I think what might grow out of this is people who have property, but they don't have the ability to provide toileting, water, that kind of thing. Then that becomes another business opportunity for people who say, you know, come over here, I'm only 6 blocks away from you, you can park here for this much money for the week, you can take it in and out as many times as you want to. And we don't have all of this equipment sitting on the street so people can't come and go. I just think that this document can't remain a work in progress, it's gotta get finished, but I think this whole concept of accommodating people who don't wanna be at party-hardy campgrounds can find a place to stay, and people in town can have the opportunity to make a buck or two. That would not be me, because my campers are all, they'll pitch in on the food, they pitch on the porta potty, but I don't make any money doing this. That's not why I do it. So I wanted to bring that parking piece. I think that needs a little better wording than no, you can't park someplace else, you gotta park right here on the property. And Dave, all it takes is a petition for you to do what you want, and you always do it right, so you're never gonna have trouble getting a petition through. But your petition is gonna clean that all up for you, and I appreciate that you guys have put that you didn't just lay down the law, get between the lines. You laid down the law, these are the lines, if you don't fit between the lines, give us a proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Come on. Yep, go ahead.
Peggy Bruce. My comment would be to simplify this, really simplify it. Why don't we just say, if you have a half an acre, you can have this many people? If you have a quarter acre, you can have this many people, before you have to even go get a permit. You know, if you just come out with that guideline that everybody could follow, then we wouldn't have to go through so much rigmarole. You know, so like if, say, Dave has 10 lots, how many people can he put on 10 lots? You know, what would be the standard for that? I always thought it was the state, 9 camping units and 19 people is what I had always went by. Always kept all the vehicles as closely as I could onto the property. I have a half an acre. I probably could cram more people on there for sure. But still, you know, if you just come out with, like, if you own an acre, you can have this many people as long as you have these facilities. If you have a half an acre, you can have this many people as long as you have the facilities, quarter acre, and so on. You know, when you get these little tiny lots with these little tiny houses on them, you're not going to be able to accommodate 9 RVs, you know, and you shouldn't even need a permit to do all that as long as you know your lot size. That would just be then, if there's a complaint and someone went and you put these guidelines out, then if they're breaking those guidelines, then there would be an issue and you would go and inspect. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
When they were talking about sales tax licenses earlier, we don't need a sales tax license as long as we don't go over 10 days, correct?
It's state regulation, it's not a city regulation.
I know,
Word
because
sales-
when I called them, I believe that's what they said.
I believe that's my understanding, that if
Yeah.
it's 10 days or over, you require a state sales tax
Yeah,
license.
when you go, it's 10 days, and then on the 11th day, you have to have the sales tax
My
license.
understanding.
Okay, that's what I thought, and, so is that gonna be in this ordinance where, are you putting anything in there about sales tax licenses?
Not referenced in the ordinance, that would be up to the state to
Okay,
take.
that's what I was asking.
Anyone else? None being seen? Do we have a motion for first reading, or do we want to do something else with this?
I think we're really close, obviously. As close as we've ever been. My grandparents are happy with it and have no issues, but if there's things that need to be,
Are some of those little things that need,
what I was going
like,
to ask.
maybe some clarification, is that substantive enough to not, I mean, how does that?
Yeah, I think there's enough out there that, based on some, some feedback we got today on, there's one of them that we got kind of changed out anyway. We got A and B, it should have been 1 and 2 and whatnot. So there's probably enough for us to be able to make some adjustments that would probably be more than substantial changes between a first and a second reading. So I guess my recommendation would be is that we would take this feedback, and there's some tightening of our language a little bit to be able to get that done before we'd come back for another first reading.
So you'd make this just informational again type of thing?
Right, because I think,
Wait,
because I think there could be some changes there that would be more substantial than those changes that would normally be allowed between first and second reading. And again, I think most of this is just kind of, dialing in on the wording and make sure, Eric and I, this is one of those things that over the last couple of weeks has been pretty busy with a lot of other things that we're trying to put this together based on that handout that we had at the last meeting. And we were kind of going through it, and sometimes, just like when you have homework or you do a paper, you look at it, it looks perfect, and you turn it over to somebody else to look at it, and there's some things that need to be adjusted to it because you're up close and personal to it. So there's some things here, some feedback tonight that I think we can make some adjustments to it. But overall, I feel that we have come a long ways. What we have right now is very restrictive, that most people are in violation of what those are. And I just did a quick look on the ordinance. It's if you have 19 campers, that was the limit you could have. Unless you're grandfathered, you could have 19 camping units. And but we don't have a lot of those lots that were grandfathered from August 1st of 2012. Some of the the complaint we had last year was on a property that had a recent turnover in ownership, and so those people exceeded what those standards were within our ordinance. So sitting back in over the last 6 months, I think we've come a long ways. As you talked, Councilor Blakeman, we're always trying to get to yes. We really tried to take away the limits. We recognize that the lot sizes do determine what those limits are, but there's other things that are considered. There could be trees, or could be hillsides where you can't necessarily put campers. So we didn't really want to put a limit based on that. It really allows, I guess, the common sense use of their personal property to be able to determine what those limits would be. We kind of looked at this. If we did not have the Sturgis Rally, what kind of camping permit we would have. And that's what we end up having by right. And if you look at other communities, even our by right exceeds any other community that I've seen when it comes down to authorizing camping within the city of Sturgis. But we recognize that the rally is unique and that you're not going to be able to hold it to those kind of standards. And so again, looking at lot sizes, where they're located, what kind of terrain that they're located on, really kind of will determine exactly how many people they could fit onto their property. So again, the intent is to get to yes. We were working on that permit, and I apologize. We got, this last couple of weeks has been kind of busy with some other stuff, and I wasn't able to kind of close the deal on that permit. But the intent is to make this pretty simple. And if it's not simple this first year, well, then we will listen to feedback and we'll simplify it and continue to simplify it as we go forward.
Yeah, that's something else, right? I mean, this is new. There might be some wrinkles to iron out of it. Would be my thought, like anything that's new.
Yeah, and it kind of helps put our people, set them up for success, because when there are complaints, and there are complaints, when we go out and check those complaints, if they're in compliance, great. If they're not in compliance, well, then what do our code enforcers, our law enforcement do, right? We kind of put them between a rock and a hard place. And that's kind of what happened to us last year when they went out and did the checks and we started evaluating our ordinance, and it was so restrictive, and we were going, wow, there'd be very few campgrounds inside of city of Sturgis based on what we have on paper right now. So we knew that was not manageable, that was not going to work, that we had to kind of sit back and try to find an approach, find a policy that would work for the city of Sturgis. And I think we are pretty darn close.
Do we go with a table this, or how do we proceed?
I think we
Just one thing, sorry, go. Just one thing we need to keep in mind, right? This is April.
Right.
It's coming fast. I'm not saying we need to rush this and just shove it through. I'm just saying we need to keep in mind
We need to move it forward. Right?
something. Because our existing ordinance is, as Aaron said, no.
Based off of Aaron's conversation and the feedback he said that has been given to City Hall and staff and more that we've heard tonight, it would be appropriate to me, it seems, to make a motion to bring this back at the next meeting for first reading, bringing in that tightened up language that would, create substantive, again, that word, changes, which would be the substantial changes, substantive, which is inhibiting us from doing a first reading tonight. Would that be an appropriate motion based off of? Okay, I would make that motion.
I believe so. I'll second.
Okay, I have a first by Ruth, a second by Nick. All those in favor of the motion say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Okay. Alrighty, moving on to 11.2.
Consider operation pathways under option 2 for the City of Sturgis Motorcycle Rally Sponsorship Program. Eric, you got this one?
Yeah, at the last meeting, we've obviously been doing a deep dive into the City of Sturgis Rally Sponsorship Program, discussing options to either keep the program in-house, to move it out of house. We've been doing some deep dives in this, a lot of touch points in the last 6 months with the council. So at the last meeting, the council was presented with a lengthy memorandum discussing option 2. That was the council's choice to outsource the commercialization of the city's sponsorship and intellectual property to a third party to perform that function. And then there were 3 sub-options identified in that memo that are all workable, and staff's prepared to move in whichever direction the council would like to go. The council indicated that it wanted some additional time to sit on that memo, to visit with some of its constituents, to review and consider that. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. If the council's ready for action tonight, that's certainly okay. If it needs more time or a different plan, that would be good for us to know.
I struggle with this one. I thought I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but then I rethink it, and I'd like to have more time, but I'm not sure of what information I need to make a good decision on this. Does that make sense?
Well, I think, sorry.
Well, I'm just struggling with that. Like I said, I kind of thought I knew how I would go, and then I think about this part, and my problem is I don't know how to move forward with this.
Well, I guess my thing on this one is if we have any questions, let's not push it through. I think this is a big deal for the next 5 to 10 years for Sturgis. So I think the more we bring and discuss, the better it will be, instead of just pushing it through. So if you need more time, understandable.
Along that same line, I think we need to, I don't have a problem waiting with this, trying to make the right decision. I think we need to advance the bridge option somehow. Even if this isn't ready to go, we are, like you said, this is coming at us pretty fast. We need a way of getting through the rally coming up too. So I don't know that helps anything, but
We're already working on that, on a potential bridge solution. We know that that's going to be required no matter which direction the council wants to go in. So
so I don't have to worry about that. You got that one covered.
Well, eventually you'll have to worry about it, but in the interim, that's something that we're focused on trying to resolve. So
thank you.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world if the council needs to take a little bit more time to evaluate this decision. I get, there's a lot of pros and cons along with it. It is not obvious to me either which is the best option in this. And like I've told you before, every one of those options can be executed well, and every one of them can be executed poorly. So it's going to be our job to try to execute as well as we can, whichever direction the council wants to go.
Oh, maybe I don't know if I can get this worded right. I'm worried that we're going to pick an option because that's the way we think it should be, and then it turns out there's nobody out there that wants that option type of thing. And then all of a sudden here we made a decision, and it turned out it wasn't the right one.
Plan B.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the question I had was, let's say we move forward with looking for national agencies or whatever. Would that mean that local, I don't know, business A agency is not allowed to put RFPs into us? That was kind of my question.
It would ultimately be up to the council. If the way that I separated it is 2A is the national, national agency, national portfolio out of town, and 2C, the idea was that an existing local entity or a local entity that would be created could handle that. And so that would, add local benefits, but it would eliminate or not have the same effect of having the national agency with the national Rolodex and the staff to do those things. But if the council ultimately decided to not go with the local nonprofit option, it could submit an RFP for either national agencies or local agencies and then consider. We would have to probably do some sort of alternate in that process, but we're going to be drafting this RFP from the ground up anyway, and so it wouldn't necessarily be difficult to include that as an option if the council wanted to consider it, and probably would be a better idea than You know, if the council goes with the local for-profit, for example, issues an RFP and there's no responses, then that's just going to burn us a couple months of time. But the heavy lift of creating the RFP is essentially going to be done.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, to me, I don't know, the national agency seems like the best route, but I would also like to see local people local businesses or whatever, be able to put in as well. If that's,
Yeah, we would just have to come up with some evaluation criteria for the request
Yeah,
for
of course.
proposals of what the council is looking for, and to be able to rank that on, how important is it to the council to, a larger national entity may already have existing relationships with brands and sponsors that they can bring to the table. That doesn't necessarily mean that a local for-profit entity wouldn't also have that, but what's the council looking for? Is that as a requirement, or, we would cross that bridge when we got to the RFP drafting, and the council would see drafts of it before it was ever issued.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else for Eric? Anybody in the public?
Just have a quick question.
Yep.
Robin Baldwin. So am I hearing that the nonprofit is part of it is off the table at this point, or is that still?
No, still on the table. The council's, the options that have been laid out to the council, at least that we see them on the staff side so far, are those three options, and that's not necessarily off the table. That's not off the table until and unless the council makes a decision on something else.
Well, and I can't speak to sponsorships because I don't deal with that, but I deal with the licensing side of it, and they do correlate. But I've been doing this for like 30 years, and I've watched this go through all these different entities, and just a regular nonprofit can't do this. I mean, it's too large scale.
Yeah.
And so that's worrisome to me, to try and navigate through contracts with people that don't have experience doing this. So that would just be my only comment towards a nonprofit situation. And also, next time put soccer up sooner, because I think there's probably a whole bunch of kids that won't ever run for city council. So anyway, that was just a comment. So thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
The point about the nonprofits is well taken, and the memo discusses, the city would have no intentions of just handing over its sponsorship and intellectual property for management over to any entity that wasn't competent or qualified to perform that. So the idea of handing that asset over to a working board and asking them to wing it is not something that's being contemplated, and would include massive changes to governance structure that would be in line with the city's duty to protect the integrity of that asset. So if it was a nonprofit option, there are ways to address those concerns and mitigate them.
Okay.
About the same as the last one. We need to move that forward to the next meeting again. Is that what we're going to do?
That's what I would suggest, but I'd like to hear what everybody else on council.
If we move it forward, we should probably attempt at narrowing it down to at least two, right? So we're not just getting the same stuff again.
Well, I would be inclined to, as much as I want us to utilize a nonprofit operator, I don't think we have one in existence that's capable, like what Robin said. I am in agreement with that. And it is April of 2026. That's not feasible in my mind to get something put together that is successful in that amount of time. So I would be inclined to make a motion to move forward with a combined search to get RFPs from national and local for-profit operators. And whatever that entails, I'm not entirely sure, but that's what I would be inclined to do, given the time.
So you'd motion to move forward with RFP for a nonprofit and a national?
One or the other. It doesn't have to be just national. I would like to see what's available locally as well as nationally. And then my understanding is
Local
after that.
for-profit.
For-profit, yes, sorry.
I think he was getting.
Okay.
No, I was sorry. I started off saying what I would like to see, but it's not feasible right now. So no nonprofit right now.
So you're talking about between the first and
Between A and C. A and C.
Well, just for clarification, when we're talking that nonprofit is not feasible, I think what we're saying is that there's no existing entity right now that's feasibly can handle that.
Right, so we'd have to form one.
But an organization could be created, or
Yes.
those could be amended where they would create that structure that will allow them to do that.
Timing is the
I'm not
is of
saying
the
that's the
essence of
direction
though.
that we should go, or that's the direction that people want to go, but I think it's false to say it's not feasible. I think it is feasible. It's all back, it devils into details and what that framework and that structure would look like.
Right, and perhaps that's not the right word. My feeling is that we wouldn't be able to get it together to be successful in the amount of time that we need for 2026.
Well, there's
So,
not, as Eric pointed out, there's not an option right now that's feasible that's going to get us for 2026. That's why we, what Councilor Mark was saying was essentially, I know you by Mark, is the bridge solution. We're going to have to figure out something for 2026. We're already past the point of being able to do any one of these three options would not be set up in time to be successful for 2026. So we got to figure out an approach for 2026. And as Eric pointed out, we got some ideas out there on how to do that. So we got a little bit of time on this to make a decision, because we don't have to make the decision here the next month or so. I mean, we got some time to deliberate, look at the pros and cons, and to determine what is the best approach. Whatever approach we end up taking probably is going to be that approach for the next 5, maybe 10 years.
so we're not looking at something for 2026 with this agenda item. We're looking at 2027 and beyond? Okay.
And I do just push back, and I always have, and reasonable people can disagree on this, and I could be absolutely wrong. I actually do think the nonprofit option is conceptually conceivable in 2026.
Okay.
And, you know, whether that actually happens, but for sure the other ones aren't. So I think the bottom line is, for the purposes of 2027, there is nothing that is infeasible in the options that have been presented so far.
Okay, so if we're looking at 2027 with this agenda item, then we're going to roll back everything that I just said.
Yeah, and I agree with Eric that I think conceptually we can have a structure in place and have the framework in place for a nonprofit. But now you have to get the right people, you have to get the right contacts, they have to start engaging with those parts. And that's the part where I guess from my perspective, you know, doing this event last year, we're in April, we're only a little ways away. We've already got sponsors that are trying to kind of close the deal on certain what some of these agreements would look like. So we do have time to, you know, to go one of those three options. You know, I think from talking with some of the counselors and talking with Mayor Forrester last time, I did talk with Kevin. You know, most of the feedback he was getting from his contacts is that I think most people seem to support going the national route for a lot of valid reasons. But we haven't necessarily sat down and gone through each of those pros and cons other than what we put out on the paper to determine what that approach would look like. Because again, this is kind of a big decision. I think it's just like we have been doing with the residential camping. I think we got some time to sit back and deliberate and kind of take some time to make the best decision when it comes to this, because recognizing that we probably need to come up with a bridge solution for 2026. And it would be, I think, and Lance could probably answer this question much better than I do, because he works with our sponsorships, you know, for the last several years. But as we go into the rally, it would be nice to have an understanding of what that approach looks like, so we can start, whoever that entity is, working on those agreements for next year.
Question for you, Eric. The RFP, how far into those can you, I'll put you on the spot, can you go into those and still incorporate all three of those? Is there a, you know, could you get halfway through them before they had to be split off to where we could look at some of that, or does that not make sense?
Do you mean to include the nonprofit in that too?
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it could be done. I think as a practical matter, we are not going to have anyone qualified who responds likely as a local nonprofit. The option for that, unless the council can identify an existing nonprofit who is willing and able to make the necessary governance changes to take on this function, we would be looking at a city-led formation of a new nonprofit. So if we put out, just like what would happen next if the council made a decision, if the council decided to go with a for-profit entity, we would probably spend a month to 2 months working on an RFP, getting that in front of the council, then issuing that. That'll probably sit out for 2 months, and then probably a 2-month process where the council and staff are going to review those RFPs before making a decision. So we're looking at likely a 6 to 8 month runway. And if the council did select the nonprofit option, again, having an existing nonprofit is not necessarily a requirement to make that work. The city could initiate the formation of its own, and then in that same 6 to 8 months, staff and the council would be working together to what is the governance structure of that board going to look like, who's going to make up its directors and officers, how are they going to be appointed, how are they going to represent a cross-section of the market and the community. So those would all be discussions that would be happening in that, to make sure that that entity was capable and qualified and staffed well enough and administered well enough to handle that important function.
So do we want to table it for next time? Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I have a first by Jim, sorry.
Takes a while.
It's been a day.
I'll second it.
A second by Alex.
Can we discuss this a little more, or we're just gonna table it and move, and where are we going with it, I guess? Just gonna bring it back, right, how do we advance it? I don't mind tabling, I got no problem with that, but how do I move myself forward on this? I guess just by tabling it, I don't see I get any more information.
The way I would see it, Mark, is we're asking that Aaron and Eric are continuing with what they're doing with existing.
But don't they need some guidance from us? Well, I don't know. Go ahead, finish, Jim, I'm sorry.
Well, my point is, I'm like you. Where do we go from here? So we have to have more information. I think I've got some people in mind that I would like to call, follow up on, and then make that presentation. I'm sure that's what you're doing, Aaron, is you've got people in mind that.
Yeah, I've been just talking to people in the community and talking to some of the council. We've been talking to people in the community.
So how do I help you guys get more information coming back to us? Just tabling this, does that work? Or is there a guidance from us that you need?
I mean, I can speak for myself and then Aaron can speak for him. I don't think necessarily that from my standpoint, I necessarily need more guidance from the council tonight in order to do what needs to be done no matter what. Because regardless of, if the council decides we're going to go with a national entity and start putting together an RFP, we're going to get to that, but we're going to get to that as soon as we're done with the bridge solution, because that's going to take priority. So we're already kind of working on that, and that is more or less going to be the same regardless of which option the council goes with. And so a 2-week delay is not going to materially delay any staff time or work on the necessary work for the 2026 bridge option.
And for me,
You're good with that?
Well, I guess if we're tabling it, this becomes old business as the first report that we have next meeting. So do you need more information in this deliberation to make a decision? I guess my sense was that, and again, we recognize that, Eric and I are not necessarily, experienced in sponsorships. We're not necessarily experienced in managing those kind of sponsorships, but we have been working with Lance. We've been working with our partners. We have an understanding what they want. They want to have confidentiality. We just got to figure out what that approach would look like. And what I've appreciated, like when Robin came up tonight, I think Marcia Johnson came up last time. So if we could get more feedback from those people that have some insights on this, that might help you guys make decisions.
That would help
I think
me.
from our perspective, do we have some that we kind of favor others more than others? But I'm not sure that's the right reason to make those selections. It would be interesting to get that kind of feedback so we could get some consensus and some buy-in in this decision, that's going to be implemented for the next 5 or 10 years. That be whichever of those options that we go with.
I'm with you. I'd like to talk to Robin a little more and pick her brain, and I still owe Francie a visit too, but with the last week, we've just been overwhelmed with other things, so.
So I guess it really comes down to what information do you need from us, or what information you need to help in this deliberation and making that decision.
I wish I had a direct answer for that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, one thing we could do is just spend some more time and just review the pros and cons of each one of those issues. And then hopefully we have some feedback from the audience and those people that have experience in this over the last, couple decades to help us. Because I don't think there's a wrong decision here, but there might be a better decision out of those three. I think as Eric has pointed out, the devil's in the details and how you structure it, what that frame looks like. Every one of them, I think, can be successful. But every one of them can fail also, depending on how we end up putting that structure together.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, one more thing. You're right. I would like to see more public input from some entities or some other thoughts on where this should go. I don't know. You're probably way more qualified, I know, than I am. But I honestly need more information, but I don't know who I need it from.
Bonnie, come on up.
Well, I think the public would like more information too, and I might be asking the same question you're asking. But when I look at this and I look at that chart, it's like what you need for sponsorships. Oh, okay, when Rick puts together a request, it's very specific about what's going to be built or what's going to be dug or what's going to whatever, so it's point by point match and offer as to who responds to that proposal. But what I don't have a sense of here, and I guess what I'm asking for is a little education. This sort of an RFP, don't you have to have a shared sense of what you want to accomplish, what we want the entity to deliver and how we want them to go about and the depth and the breadth of that? And I see sort of kind of idea talking going on, but I don't see a sense of this is what we need, and how would that be different? How they get at it might be different as to which of those ABCs you take, but what you want them to do and accomplish, isn't that pretty much universal amongst those?
I think, and that's what Eric was saying, that once a decision was made of what direction, there would be probably, what'd you think, 2 months of just drafting an RFP, giving some sort of scope, right?
Okay,
We've got to
then-
give them some sort of scope.
And maybe I didn't take in that what direction to go correctly. Excuse me, I thought Aaron was saying A, B, or C, and then start putting together the request for a proposal. But it seems to me that you need to know what you're requesting before you can decide whether you're going A, B, or C to get it. And seeing, what those entities can offer you as far as a method and approach, whatever.
I think we were operating under the assumption that when we're talking about RFPs, we were talking about the profit agencies, like the national agency or maybe the local profit agency. And then the appropriate way to do that, because you may have multiple entities out there that want to bid or put in for that particular opportunity. And so that's where that RFP would come into play. Now, if we were looking at a non-profit, we weren't looking at that as an RFP. So in that sense, you could maybe put this down to two options, right? And it kind of goes back to what Nick was talking about in the fact that if you're going to do an RFP, it doesn't necessarily exclude local profit type agencies. And so if we did an RFP, it may potentially, and again, goes back to what our evaluation criteria and what weight we put onto the evaluation criteria determines to, in terms of how we weight and which one of those would be rated number 1, number 2, number 3. If you're, for case of argument, if you're looking at somebody that has a national agency that has those relationships with those type of entities and has deep, Rolodex and those kind of relationships, that might be more, you may view that greater than a local profit agency that has capacity maybe and has capability, but doesn't necessarily have the relationships out there to be able to do that. So again, it goes devil's in the details on how we would establish that RFP and what those evaluation criteria is. But essentially, it looks like maybe we do have two options. It's a nonprofit or it's profit. And depending on which one we do, that will determine what that approach would be.
Well, and I get what you're saying as far as the assessment and evaluation process would differ amongst those entities, but it seems to me what you're seeking is pretty much the same. The end result should be the same no matter.
Yeah, I think all three of them. Again, the end result is how do we have confidential agreements that are legal between the city of Sturgis and whatever entities that we're working with and those partners that want to maintain that confidentiality. So each one of these approaches allows us to have an agency out there that we would have an agreement with them, a lot of it based on what would come out of the RFP in terms of what that relationship would look like, and that would all be very transparent and open records type of material. But then they would have an agreement with the sponsorships, and then they would be able to maintain that confidentiality. So you're right, Bonnie. I think all three options achieves the end that we're looking for. It's just which approach do we want to take?
But it doesn't. It just seems to me that you would start with drafting, outlining that request. I mean, this is what we want. Who wants to give it to us? Who wants to
Bonnie,
do it for us?
the request is not going to exist if the council selects option 2B. And so you're talking about,
The request not exist for one of the options.
because, we would be issuing a request for proposals for entities to give us a proposal to manage this function. Whereas with the nonprofit, the council would essentially be sponsoring the creation of a new nonprofit that would just handle that function. So what's in the RFP, at least in my view, is decision bite 3, and you're jumping just a little bit farther ahead that I don't think you can decide what the procurement process is going to look like until you understand the entity that you're trying to target for this function, because they are very different, and there are different pros and cons between a local for-profit entity, a national for-profit entity, and a nonprofit. So, the point is well taken that at some point, and if the council does go with, wants to do a combined RFP, we're going to have to navigate that, because they're going to have, we're in some ways won't be comparing apples to apples if we go with a local nonprofit and a national agency, or a local for-profit and a national agency, because they're different animals. But that can be navigated. But doing an RFP for a nonprofit that isn't going to submit an RFP, I don't think is the next.
Well, and maybe that's my ignorance in what I'm calling, and I'm asking for education. I want to understand what you're going through here, but it just seems to be that there has to be something visible of your expectations. The route of reaching those will be different, whether it's an established profit or you develop a nonprofit, but isn't the end result the same?
Yeah, and I think the end result's been identified in the memo.
Well, then maybe that's what I'm asking for. What's your end result?
An entity that will monetize the sponsorship and intellectual property of the city on behalf of the city.
Okay, I get that, but that's kind of a lot of gibberish. You don't have that broken down into dollars that you expect or numbers of entities involved with this?
Not yet.
Okay.
Bonnie, I don't know if this might not work at all. You can pick 3 different routes to go to Rapid City, depending on how you want to get there, whether you want a leisure route. All the routes, we know where we want to get, but it makes quite a difference when I drive out of here whether I go right or left or down the street. And we've got to decide which direction we're going to go first. We know we want to get to Rapid, but we still need more information on how we're going to get there first.
And that I get. I guess I'm just not sure that we want to get to Rapid is enough, is specific enough, that we want to monetize intellectual properties is sort of fluffy. So where in Rapid do you want to go? What stops do you want to make? I mean, what do we expect these people to deliver? How much, how many? I don't mean to hold up the process. That's just, I'm sitting here trying to make sense.
Well, part of the challenge for us is that we got limited time. And so we could probably go through and do the exercise and all of that. But again, we don't have the time to do that. So if what we're looking for is once we get a decision from the council on which that path they want to take, then that allows us, now we have to do more details, the devil's in the details, and what that RFP would look like. And at that point, we'll have to look at, because again, we have done a lot of these approaches before, and some people would perceive that we've always failed. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but we know that every one of those approaches we've taken before has had problems. We need to identify what those problems were and how we can mitigate that. And so whatever approach we end up taking, we can set the conditions for that to be more successful. And, but again, instead of throwing a shotgun out there and try to hit all the targets, let's wait to determine what target we want to hit, and then we'll focus our efforts on that particular target.
So you're talking tabling this issue tonight, but this issue doesn't apply to 26 anyway. So somehow you're moving forward on 26 separately from this issue of 27 and beyond? Is that what I heard?
There will have to be a separate action related to 2026 at some point in the future by the council.
So when do we start marching toward 26?
Pretty soon.
Like yesterday?
We've been doing it for months.
Yeah.
For this.
It's almost what I've been working on since October.
So what do we have? I mean, do we have a grip on it?
I mean, depends on how you view 40 pages of memos. So I would say yes, but not everyone who read them would agree with me, I'm sure.
And you know I know how hard you're working, and I don't ever criticize that.
I know you're not.
Okay, I just want to learn, and I think, you know, the more you send toward us as far as understanding what you're going through, the less resistance you get from this side of the counter. And I don't get it yet, so I'm just trying. Thank you.
Anybody else? Council, public? I have a first on the table to table it from Jim and a second from Alex. All those with the motion?
Just for clarity then, so the intent is to have a discussion on this next meeting, or to make a decision at next meeting?
I would assume we'll be, well, I guess I'd like to think we can make a decision, but I don't, can we make a decision in 2 weeks?
Is there anything that you don't have right now that you need in 2 weeks?
We don't have options. I mean, we don't know who
No.
those people are.
Well, I don't think we will, Jim. I need public input.
Okay.
Is what I need. I need somebody like Robin stepped up. I need some of the people that are out there that are interested in this. Either way, I need to hear from those people because I need guidance on this.
Understandable.
Does that make sense? I'd love to make a decision, and I'd love to make it tonight, but I need more information from the public. So I'd like to make a decision in 2 weeks
So the intent is for that meeting then is to engage, those people in our public that are interested in this topic, have information on this topic, to participate in this, to provide that context and that information.
Yeah,
Okay.
preferably before that meeting, so that I have
Okay.
time to absorb that. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
So you're not looking, I mean, if people show up to the meeting and speak great, but you're hoping to have that.
I'd love to have that all by this weekend, so that I can think about this and see what's out there way before next meeting. I don't want to find it out on the, what is 20th? I don't want to find out on the 20th all these options. I'd like to know that ahead of time to absorb that. Does that make sense? Does that help you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, that's good.
Okay. Let's move this.
Okay. Like I said, I got a first by Jim, a second by Alex to table this till April 20th. All those in favor of the motion say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Alrighty. 11.3, I think Rick's got this one.
Evening, council. Up for consideration is the awarding of the Dudley Corridor Sanitary Sewer CIPP project. This is a cured-in-place pipe project. This is the third and final phase of our Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan. If you remember, the city was awarded $10.3 million at 2.125% for 30 years. This project is all included in the current surcharge that we're collecting. The first phase was the interceptor line out to the Avalanche Road area, and then we did a big chunk of replacing sewer lines in between Lizelle and Dudley Street, and this is the final phase that is fixing some of that pipe. This work includes lining those existing sewer mains and completing the point repairs. The CIPP does allow us to extend the life of these lines approximately 25 to 30 years. It basically gives us a new pipe. CIP allows us to reduce the infiltration, prevent future failures, avoids costly emergency repairs. We did receive 2 bids on March 13th when we held a public bid opening. The low bidder was Mocon Pacific Incorporated at $631,530.50. The engineer's estimate for this project was $812,000, so this bid did come in about 22% below the engineer's estimate. AE2S has reviewed the bids and is recommending award to Mocon Pacific as the lowest responsive bidder. Staff would recommend the council award this project to Mocon Pacific and authorize the city administrator and the director of public works to sign the contract documents and all the other documents necessary for the successful completion of this project. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you have any questions for Rick? Anybody in the public? None being seen, do I have a motion to approve the contract?
I'd move to accept Mocon Pacific.
Second. First by Mark, a second by Terry. All those in favor of the motion? Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Those opposed, no? Okay. Moving on to 11.4, approval for Woodland parking lot agreement with the Meade School District.
Next up for consideration is the approval of the Woodlefield parking lot agreement with the Meade School District. This does replace a prior agreement and would terminate the previous joint use lease. If you remember, in 2024, the city did sell the actual football field property to the Meade School District. We still retain ownership of the parking lot. Part of our agreement says that during school activities, the district has exclusive use of this parking lot for their school events, and then during the non-school months, it's a shared non-exclusive use. Also in this agreement this time around is the 2026 construction impacts. Those dates will be from May 18th through August 31st of 2026. The district will have temporary control of the designated parking area, a much expanded footprint. We have worked with them, and we have a logistical plan that shows how they're going to reroute the bike path and close down the parking lot during the construction of the new turf project. Maintenance and cost sharing is 50-50 between the city and the district. City pays up front, and then we send a bill to the school district and get reimbursed 50%. That's how we've always done it. City has exclusive use, if any, during the Sturgis motorcycle rally, and this agreement would be effective upon execution and runs through December 31st of 2031, so it's a 5-year agreement. With that, staff would recommend that the council approve and authorize the city administrator to sign this agreement. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Rick from council?
I move to approve.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Any questions or concerns from the public? All right, I have a first by Nick.
Second.
second by Mark. All those approve of the motion, say yes.
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 Those opposed, no. All right. 11-5. Go ahead, Rick.
So this is a request from the Sturgis Soccer Association to close the east half of the Sturgis Soccer Complex for maintenance improvements. The proposed closure would begin May 18th and would reopen early August 2026. This is phase 2. If you remember last year, we did the west half, and it was completed successfully. City staff did experience no issues with the coordination, performance, or the restoration during that project. The scope of the work is some irrigation system upgrades, turf leveling, seeding, fertilizing, mulching, aeration, and some watering. Financial impact is fairly minimal. We didn't see a whole lot of water usage even that was above and beyond normal operations last year. This continues to be a proven successful improvement plan, and the results are better, more playable fields for the community. Staff recommends the motion to approve the request from the Sturgis Soccer Association to close the east half of the soccer fields beginning May 18th and reopening early August. With that, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions you may have.
Any questions from council? Any questions from the public? Come on up.
Daniel Granillo. A quick question. The bike path that runs through the soccer fields, would that be blocked off or just the fields?
Just the fields for the maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a first by Terry, a second by Ruth. All those in favor of the motion, say yes.
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 All those opposed, no. All righty. 11-6.
Next is a request again from the Sturgis Soccer Association. They are requesting the closure of the parking lot during their spring tournament scheduled to May 15th through the 17th, that would allow them to charge for paid parking. This tournament continues to be one of the larger regional youth events hosted in Sturgis. Based on prior years, the event brings in approximately 5,000 players and visitors and continues to grow. It does provide a strong economic impact for our local businesses and is a key fundraiser for the Soccer Association. The association is requesting the approval to charge for parking in the designated city-owned areas. Along with that, they're also proposing to increase the number of parking passes from 100 that they had last year to 150 to better accommodate attendance. This does help control parking and manage traffic flow, reduces congestion, and does improve safety. The city's role in this is in previous years, the city staff will assist with the general event support such as traffic coordination, extra garbage service, site logistics. Staff does recommend approval of this as it aligns with the past practice and supports a well-established community event. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Will the light be on at Nelly?
We have requested that from the DOT. I haven't got the actual permit yet, but I don't see any reason why it won't be functional.
Helps a lot. having
Yeah,
that on.
agreed.
Anything else for Rick? Anything for Rick from the public? None being seen. Do I have a motion?
First.
First by
Yes.
Alex, a second by
Nick got it.
Nick. All those in favor of the motion say yes.
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 All those opposed, no. Move on to 11-7.
Lastly, is the consideration to award the 2026 to 2030 31 portable, or actually 2030, December 31st, 2030, portable toilet rental and servicing contract. This is a critical operational contract that supports the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. City publicly bid this with bids opening on March 11th, 2026. We did receive 3 qualified bids. The contract is structured as a 5-year agreement, providing long-term service and stability. The award is based on the lowest responsive and responsible bidder over the course of the 5-year term. The apparent low bidder was CNG Garbage LLC, doing business as Dakota Dumper. Their price came in significantly lower than the other bids at $10 for rental and for servicing and $8 for additional servicing. This contract is required to provide 135 standard and 15 ADA units during the rally, and those units each get serviced twice daily. This contract is drafted to ensure that large-scale events like the rally provide cost certainty for the city, operational consistency, and reduced risk during the peak demand periods. We did meet with the staff from the CNG earlier this week to review and go over the contract. They're a new provider for the rally, and just to ensure that they completely understood what would be required of them. They had no concerns. So with that, staff would recommend awarding the contract to CNG Garbage, doing business as Dakota Dumper, and authorize the city administrator to execute a service agreement. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or concerns for Rick from council? Any from the public? None being seen, do I have a motion to approve?
I'd make the motion to approve.
I got a first by Jim,
I'll second.
second by Ruth. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no.
No.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Rick. 11.8, consider application transfer of medical marijuana cultivation from Pitbull Acres LLC.
Good evening, council. Up before you tonight's consideration to approve transfer of the application for medical marijuana cultivation with Pitbull Acres LLC. Pitbull Acres has recently acquired a lease from Genesis Farms, who had purchased the building from the crop shop, previous owners at 2951 Whitewood Service Road, and they have submitted an application for medical marijuana cultivation license. The code enforcement officer has done an inspection of the property, and all manufacturing equipment has been removed from the property. Once cultivation license is approved and plants are moved into the building, another inspection will be done. So there's been no complaints made to law enforcement or code enforcement. The applicants paid all their associated fees as required and has filed an insurance with the city of Sturgis through our Citizen Serve portal and complied with all sections of Sturgis Municipal Code. And there's also a complete application that can be viewed on finance at the finance office. So if there's any other questions, I'll keep it short and sweet, and I believe they are in the audience as well if you have any questions for them.
Anybody from council have questions for Jody or the owners of Pitbull? Anybody in the crowd, audience, have any questions? Looks like they're gonna come up. Come on up.
No questions. I just wanted to quick introduce myself, Casey Entwistle, one of the owners of Pitbull Acres. So I thank you and I look forward to working with the city.
Well, thank you very much for introducing yourself. All right, with that, we'll wait for more.
I'd make the motion to approve.
Okay. Got a first by Jim,
Second.
second by Alex. All those in approve of the motion, say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. All righty, passes. 11.9, consider to approve the publishing service agreement with the 2026 official magazine of the City of Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. As pointed out, this is a consideration to approve publishing services agreement for the current 2026 official Rally magazine. We do this annually. What it allows us to do is it ensures the quality of the magazine while increasing revenue from advertising and also greatly reducing staff time to put the magazine together. This upcoming event will commemorate the 9th consecutive year that we have partnered with the Sturgis Motorcycle Museum and Hall of Fame for this publishing agreement. And it allows us both to market the rally through our respective organizations and their partnerships. So Also included this year in the agreement are several ancillary related rally items, that being the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which you're all aware of, as well as exhibit space in rally headquarters, the Armory, and official webcam branding, city webcam branding. Staff is requesting council's approval pending any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Lance from council?
Is this pretty similar to previous years?
It will be.
Okay.
Yes, Councilor Nichols, it will be, given that it's the 250th anniversary of the nation, also the 25th anniversary of the museum and 9/11, we are doing more of a, I'll call it a coffee table style collector's magazine, so it will be considerably larger and published in a quite a nice way.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions from the public? None being seen. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
First by Ruth, second by Nick. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. 11:10, consider resolution concerning the practicability of appointing a temporary mayor under SDCL 9-8-2. Eric, Aaron?
I'll tee this one up. You know, this is, again, this for your discussion on what direction you want to go. But essentially, as Eric pointed out last meeting, there is state law that requires a vacancy in the office of the mayor be filled by appointment by the majority vote of all the aldermen as soon as practical after that vacancy occurs. So I guess the question is, is it practical to make that appointment with the special election happening here in 2 months and that mayor being appointed probably sometime soon, early in June, or is it not practical? So essentially, we've kind of teed up, there's three things here. There's the option one is there's a resolution here. If you chose to approve that, basically it's saying it's not practical at this time and that we would just continue on with the mayor pro tem, the president of the council, filling the major roles of the mayorship until that special election and the new mayor is seated and sworn in. Option two is vote against the resolution and proceed to make a motion for our mayor tonight, or vote against the resolution and proceed by motion establishing a procedure and a timeline when you will make that appointment. So essentially, at this point, I'll just turn it over to you to have that discussion if it's practical or not practical. And again, those are the three options depending on what that outcome is.
I'll open it up to council.
In my unlawyerized opinion, I don't think that it's practical to appoint anyone for 2 months for them to lose their seat over a 2-month appointment. I would make the motion to adopt the resolution as presented, thereby finding that appointment is not practical at this time.
Okay.
Turn my microphone on. I would second that with the comment also about what's practicable. I think that given the history of appointing mayors in the past for Sturgis, it would be unsuccessful. And when we talked about what the definition of practicable was previously, part of that is, would it be successful in doing that? I think we have to take into consideration the public's opinion and giving the public the right to vote for their mayor. So I would second that motion.
Any more? Anything from public?
I have just this, and I have talked to Aaron, so I'm going to make this quick, but I disagree with Ruth only in this, that we had, whether we understand or not, Kevin had asked that we consider appointing someone. We have not had that discussion. When I brought it up last time, all I had was silence from everyone, and what I consider to be very rude to Kevin, who had made that request. Now, I understand that maybe he didn't understand it. Who knows? We won't know that now. I think that whatever we have done in the past is not really the issue now. That's the past, and that was a history of it. But we've also had some elections that may not have worked very well. So I'm only going to say I would like us to have at least discussed that as to why it wasn't even brought up in anything. It was not included when we had the press conference or the press release. And again, nobody talked about it when I brought it up and proposed that we appoint someone. And I'm disappointed in that because I would have liked a discussion. I'm not suggesting one or the other. It's just that since we have had a very strong response both to Kevin's illness and now his death, much almost canonizing him, which I'm a fan. But to have done that and yet not take into consideration what he proposed in his resignation seems rude is the only word I can come up with. I think we needed to have the discussion at least. There has to be a reason why he made that recommendation, and that isn't my point. Is that are running besides that's not the issue. It's in my case, I only consider that since the mayor had said, here's the person I would like to have you appoint to fill out my term, we should have had a discussion at least. We should have had at least some kind of conversation. Anyway, that's my point. I don't have I'll go along with what you're saying. I'm not against elections. I think that's if as a citizen, I would like that to happen. And it's certainly not about you, Tony, because I know your heart and mind are here. Thank you for what you're doing.
We're trying, but we're doing well.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
You know, I wasn't present when Mayor Forster wrote his resignation letter on that Sunday, but I did visit with him on Friday before that. And Kevin and I have been talking about this often when he got his diagnosis last fall and what that process would look like. And we always operated under the understanding that there would be a special election, that the council president, whoever that person was when he did resign, would fill the role as mayor pro tem. And we talked on that Friday, a couple of days before his resignation, and we were still talking in those terms about a special election. It wasn't until that Monday morning, when we knew that Kevin's time, that he was going to be resigning relatively soon, that we dug back into the state law, and it became apparent to us that there was this requirement to do this appointment if it was practicable, however you pronounce that. And again, that was that Monday morning. That's the same day that I did receive the letter from Mayor Forster that he was resigning. But in those 5 months, we never once talked about an appointment. Now, again, I wasn't there, and I wasn't in his head when he wrote that down. All I can tell you is that over the time that we discussed this, and we discussed it quite often, because we knew that it was a matter of time when he would probably resign and what that transition would look like. And then also kind of going back on our experience when we were both on council when Mayor Carsonson resigned. We had the series of appointments and the consternation that created for our city. So I think I think he was always operating under the impression that there was a special election. That's why I don't think he was very specific in his letter. It didn't say special election, didn't say anything about appointment, because I think when Mayor Forster wrote that, I think he was under the same impression that I was until that morning, that we were always talking about a special election, and that the continuity of governments with the city of Sturgis would occur with the president stepping up as the mayor pro tem and continue on until we had that filled by special election. But again, I wasn't there, Jim, And, I don't know, but again, I feel pretty confident that over that time that we had that discussion, and particularly that Friday, we talked specifically about the special election and maybe who would be running and those types of things. So never once did the appointment come up.
And my only point with that, and I appreciate that, Aaron, my respect for you is so that's not an issue at all. The letter almost was a plea to say to the council, I hope that the council would appoint Rod Bradley as to fill out my term. He didn't talk about a special election. Again, I'm not promoting that any way other than to say that was the mayor's request, and I thought we deserved a conversation about it, and have never had that. So thank you, Aaron, and I certainly don't disapprove of an election.
Well, we do have a first on the floor and a second on the floor from Nick and Ruth to adopt the resolution as presented. All of those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All of those opposed, no.
No.
Alrighty. Yes.
Does one preclude the other? Does an appointment, you've mentioned the 60 days. Does an appointment until the election preclude the election? There's the terminology of to finish out my term. What would finishing out Kevin's term be as opposed to 60 days as opposed to?
Finishing out his term would be 2.5 years.
Bonnie, I had understood him to say finishing out the term as of tonight, for example, had we voted that way.
2.5 years.
It'd be 2.5 years.
Go till June of.
So that's why, Ruth, you're saying people want to vote.
Yes, I think that is something that we need to consider when we're defining what practicable, my goodness. I don't know why we have so much trouble with that word. What the definition of that means, and that means being successful in with whatever motion we decide to put into place, whatever motion we take tonight. And to me, that means that we need to allow the citizens to vote for the mayors. For the mayor, I understand the citizens voted for all of us to be up here, and we represent the citizens, but the citizens need to be able to vote for the mayor.
Making an appointment would say no election.
No. Well,
It could have.
it could if that's the motion that we made. Yeah, but
You could have an appointment
for 2 months.
temporarily.
or for 2.5
However,
years, but what Ruth, I think, is saying is an appointment period has not
historically worked, no. And my understanding also of appointing somebody, or my view of it, of appointing somebody temporarily is also to solve the problem of continuity of leadership. And I don't think we have that problem. We have that with Tony remaining as mayor pro tem over this span of time until we have the special election and swear in whoever gets elected.
Clear as mud, Bonnie?
I think so.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
Terry Jensen served as mayor and was appointed from his position. Did you have to resign then?
Yes.
So, as you would have had to had we appointed you, so
And then there was a temporary
you were,
councilman set in place.
okay.
I had 8 months left on my term.
So it has been done. And again, the situation today, considering what happened when Angela, for instance, was appointed by the council. this
Right,
is-
but Jim, keep in mind, it was a different form of government at that time.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
mayor.
And the people have voted for that form of government.
Anyway,
Yeah. Well, it carried 7-1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So, like I said, it's been a long day. All right.
you've done well.
Well, we do have need for executive session. Is there? Yes. Is there going to be any action, Eric?
I'm not anticipating
Okay.
any action after the executive session, but we do need to discuss a couple items. Would ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel issue pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 sub 1 and to consult with legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation and contractual matters pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 sub 3.
All right. Do I have a motion to go into exec?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ruth for first and a second by Alex. All those in favor? Say
Yes.
Yes.
Those opposed?
back from exec session, no action being needed. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a first by Jim, a second by Alex. All those in favor for adjournment?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, last thing, anybody up for KB?